Good afternoon, my dear. Is Mr. Everton about? Just tell him it's the Vicar, Mr. Parslow. Can you remember that?
Monica. Your manners tell you should ask the Vicar in.
She's just a little shy.
I'll tell Mr. Everton you're here. Please come in, sir.
Thank you. Monica. I have a little girl just about your age. Her name's Gladys. Do you go to school? Then who hears you your lessons?
Miss Griffin.
Well, she must be an excellent teacher, for I see you like to read. And what a big book for a little girl. Mind if I look at it? Oh, the Iliad. That's quite a lot to digest.
Mr. Everton will see you now, sir. Monica, the stairs are no place to do your reading. Why don't you read in your room?
I don't like my room.
Oh, good heavens, there's lots of other rooms in the house.
Here in Suffolk, we're very proud of our little community, Mr. Everton. And since you just arrived here, I thought you might like to join our church and meet your neighbours.
I'm afraid, my dear Vicar, that I'm a poor prospect.
Why do you say that, sir?
Well, you see, I'm not a bit gregarious. Maybe that's why I moved here from Hampstead. This old house is so fortunately remote from everything and everybody.
I don't wish to appear presumptuous, Mr. Everton, but is this sort of living fair to your little daughter?
My niece, you mean?
Oh, then she's only visiting you.
No, Monica is my charge. Her parents were killed in an accident when she was only a few months old.
Your little girl seems rather unhappy, I would say. Entirely too timid, too frustrated, almost morose.
Perhaps she's just different from other children.
Too different, maybe. If you would at least send her to our Sunday school, where she might meet other little girls.
No, Mr. Parslow. I intend to contrive Monica's education myself, religious and otherwise.
But don't you want her to grow up like our other boys and girls?
No, because frankly I find myself out of tune with modern children. And what I dislike in them, I blame on modern schools. However, I can assure you that Monica lacks for nothing. She's surrounded here with music, art, books, and she takes to them all very naturally.
And is she happy?
Just what is happiness, my dear Vicar? And how many of us ever achieve it?
Well, should you decide to change your mind about Monica...
Then you would be the first I should consult. And now I really must finish this chapter. I hope you'll drop in and see me again someday when my time is less occupied.
Please don't trouble, Mr. Everton. I can see myself out.
Lightly roll, o'er the tender waves we go. Lightly roll, drifting out to sea.
Monica, you know one doesn't sing at dinner.
Yes, sir.
And where did you learn such a song?
In the schoolroom?
The schoolroom?
Yes, upstairs.
Monica, please, there is no schoolroom. Miss Griffin takes you for your lessons either in the sewing room or here in the dining room.
That's right, sir.
And if it's one of those rooms, kindly refer to it by its proper name.
Uncle Steven, I am calling it by its proper name. It's the big empty room near mine. And it's the schoolroom, that's what it's called.
This stubborn, childish attitude is very disturbing, Monica.
have a pleasant ride, sir?
Yes, indeed. Isn't this the time of day when you should be taking Monica in her lessons?
You told me never to force her, Mr. Everton. And somehow she seems to prefer to spend most of her time lately in that room.
Oh, it's probably only a passing whim.
Haven't you heard her dancing about and singing?
No, I haven't.
Nevertheless, but I do wish she would not talk to herself.
Talk to herself? Oh, I didn't know she did that.
Oh, yes. She holds quite long conversations. I haven't exactly heard what she talks about, but sometimes it sounds as if she were in the midst of a circle of friends.
In that same room?
Yes. Oh, I'm sure I shouldn't have bothered you, sir, with this, with your book writing and all.
Oh, that's all right. But this phase in Monica's development is nothing to worry about, you know. It's perfectly normal. Children are very prone to hold imaginary conversations with themselves. And what sort of game is this that you're playing, young lady?
Jacks?
Jacks, eh? Did Miss Griffin teach you?
No, sir.
Then where did you learn it?
Here in the schoolroom.
When will you stop persisting that this is a schoolroom?
It is.
All right, all right. This playing games by yourself is a new side of your nature, Monica. Tell me, where did you buy this ball?
I didn't buy it, Uncle Steven. It was here in the schoolroom. We have lots of toys and things.
We?
My schoolmates. Mary. Elsie. It's all right. You can come out now.
After thinking it over, I feel that I shouldn't be too stern with Monica. It's only her childish imagination working overtime.
I suppose so. But it never would have happened if she weren't so much alone.
Oh, nonsense.
I'm not so sure, Mr. Everton. If you don't mind my saying so, we're all too much alone. You, Monica, and myself. And it's not wholesome, particularly for a growing child.
And don't worry about Monica. This way she's growing up unhampered as an individual.
Now, don't work late.
I won't. Just mulling over a few ideas and then turning in. Well, what's the matter now?
One of these days you'll catch your death of cold, sitting with your back to an open window.
Thank you, Miss Griffin. And good night.
Good night, Mr. Everton. And don't forget, make it an early one.
Are you tired of clicking through the commercials? Watch commercial free on Patreon. The link is below this video in the description box. And now back to the show.
Come on, loosen your touch. I let him too far. I'll take it easy.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ready or not, you shall be...
Hello. What are you up to?
Nothing.
Come, Monica. You were talking to yourself, and you shouldn't do that. It's an idle and very foolish habit.
I wasn't talking to myself, Uncle Steven.
Nonsense. I heard you.
I wasn't talking to myself.
But there's nobody else here.
There isn't now. They've gone. You frightened them.
Who's gone and whom have I frightened? You're being a very silly little girl.
You just don't understand, Uncle Steven. If you met my playmates, you'd...
Oh, I see. Other children come and play with you, do they? And they run away when I'm about because they don't like me. Is that it?
Oh, they do like you. But they're shy. And like I said, you frighten them.
Monica. Now tell me, what kind of playmates are these?
Oh, just girls. And awfully nice. But they don't dress like me. They're in white with longer skirts. And they wear sashes.
Oh, old-fashioned girls, eh? Young lady, you got all this out of illustrations from books in my library.
Oh, but I didn't. They're as real as me. There's Mary Hewitt. I think I love her best of all. And Elsie Powers.
How many are there altogether?
7. And this is the schoolroom where we play games. I just love games. I wish I'd learned to play them before. Oh, please don't be angry, Uncle Steven. You don't understand at all. I knew you wouldn't.
Well, never mind. But I wouldn't play with them too much if I were you.
Mary. Elsie. It's all right. He's gone now.
Something worrying you, Mr. Everton? Something worrying you?
Yes, I was worried to begin with. But I think I've solved it. It's about Monica and these imaginary playmates of hers.
Oh. Still, I cannot understand how she learned those new expressions. How she picked up those games.
Out of books she found, and then she pretended that they had taught her. But that's not what was worrying me.
No?
No, it was when I started imagining these little playmates myself. Even thought I heard their laughter. In fact, at different times, I've had distinct impressions of there being a lot of little girls about the house.
Oh, Mr. Everton.
But the explanation's perfectly simple when you analyze it. It's nothing more nor less than an interesting manifestation of telepathy.
Telepathy?
I'm sure of it. Yes. Monica's insistence about those friends of hers disturbed me, so that it made me too telepathically aware of them. Transfers of thought, if you know what I mean.
I'm not so sure that I do.
Well, anyway, I'm not concerned about myself any longer. Not now that I've analyzed it. But when I first felt the presence of these other children, I don't mind telling you frankly, I was worried.
Oh, hello.
Monica, well, this is my daughter, Gladys. Gladys, this is Monica.
Hello. Hello.
I thought you two girls should know each other. Ah, Mr. Everton.
Uncle Steven, this is the Vicar's little girl. Her name is Gladys. He brought her over to play with me.
I trust you don't mind.
Hello, my name's Gladys, and I go to a private school in Kensington, and my father said he didn't know me when I came home because I had grown up so, and he bought me this pretty new dress because I got a gold star for a perfect report.
Gladys, please. The child would give you her whole autobiography if I gave her half a chance.
Evidently.
She's home for the Easter holidays, so I thought I'd have her meet her little neighbor. I'll pick you up later, Gladys. Around 4 o'clock.
Oh, can't she stay for dinner?
Well...
Oh, please, can't she? I've never had any friends for dinner before.
Well,
Oh, please.
All right.
Come on, Gladys. Can you skip rope? Yes. I can do it properly. You can? Yes, please.
I think they'll get along remarkably together. I had the feeling that Monica needs a little companionship.
Really? The vicar knows my theories about children, how I feel about Monica. But what could I say to him? Take your daughter home? Couldn't be that rude.
Indeed you couldn't, sir. But perhaps it's good for Monica to have someone real to play with.
Where are they now?
In that room. All afternoon, the door closed.
Dinner ready?
Just about.
Where's your little friend?
She went home.
Did you quarrel with her?
No.
Then why's she gone like this?
She got frightened when she saw my friends.
A very naughty little girl, Monica. This foolishness has gone too far. You know perfectly well that Gladys couldn't have seen your friends.
She did.
You simply frightened her, but who weren't there. And it'll serve you right if she never comes to play with you again.
She won't. And she did see them, Miss Gribbin.
How do you know, Monica?
By the way she looked so scared. And she spoke to them, too.
Oh, this is ridiculous. I've been in that room time and again, and it's just the same as any other room.
It isn't. And you know why Mary or Elsie won't talk to you?
Because they don't exist. That's why.
Oh, you don't understand. You'll never understand.
Monica, please, come back to your dinner.
I don't want any dinner.
You're wrong to blame the child, because these creatures of her fancy are perfectly real to her.
Please, Mr. Everton, you're just trying to find excuses because you've been seeing things yourself.
Miss Griffin.
Sorry, Mr. Everton.
Don't worry, I'll go. And please try and control yourself.
Thank you. Yes? I won't be long. But I felt I should apologize for the conduct of my little girl, running out on you as she did.
I appreciate your consideration, but after all, there's no reason why we should become embroiled in a quarrel between our children.
Did Monica have any explanation?
Oh, yes, she was quite explicit. You see, left to her own resources, with no companions of her own age, Monica has manufactured some. And when she insisted on introducing them to Gladys, Gladys's imagination seems to have soared too. She thought she actually saw and heard them. It frightened her, and she ran home.
Well, I'm glad that's all there is to it. Just how long has she envisioned these playmates?
Only since we moved here. It's an entirely new side of Monica. And thank goodness they choose only to speak to Monica and confine themselves mostly to one room, the schoolroom, as Monica calls it.
Tell me, Mr. Everton, how many of these friends has Monica acquired? And just how real are they to her?
Oh, I think there are 7 of them altogether, and they're very real to Monica. She even calls them by name. There's a Mary and an Elsie. What's the matter?
Mr. Everton, did you know that this house was once a girls' school?
A girls' school? No, I didn't.
It's uncanny.
What do you mean?
Mr. Everton, there's something I feel I should tell you. My aunt, whom I never saw, was a pupil here. In fact, she died here. There were 7 who died. Diphtheria. It ruined the school, which closed shortly afterwards. Did you know that, Mr. Everton?
No.
My aunt's name was Mary Hewitt.
Good heavens. That's one of the names Monica told me. How could she have known?
How indeed. And Mary Hewitt's great friend was Elsie Power. They died within a few hours of each other.
Then Monica wasn't imagining. She couldn't have guessed. There was no way of telling. She must have actually heard them, seen them.
And that's why Gladys was so afraid, because she's heard me talk of my aunts time and again. So she knew that these children who came to play with little Monica were not of this world. There's nothing to be afraid of, Mr. Everton. If those whom we call dead still remain close to us, what more natural than those children should come back to play with a lonely little girl who lacked human playmates?
But, Mr. Parslow, what in heaven's name am I to do?
You'll find the answer, Mr. Everton, because those strange visitations were heaven sent. Perhaps not so much for Monica as for you.
dear.
Yes?
I think I understand everything now. And no one here is ever going to make fun of you again. But about those little friends of yours, sweet as they are, and much as you love them, you must say goodbye to them. Tomorrow I'm arranging to send you off to school, where you'll have lots of other little playmates, and you'll never be lonely again.
Yes, sir.
You see, it's difficult to explain such matters to a little girl, but if you were to keep on living in a world of your own, one day you might find other friends, not as kind or as helpful as Mary and Elsie.
Oh, but they've been wonderful to me, Uncle Steven.
Of course they have. But conversing with beings invisible and inaudible to others is not to be recommended. And if you don't understand all this now, you must try and believe that what I'm doing is for your own good and happiness.
You kissed me. Oh, I don't want to leave you, Uncle Steven. You'll be very lonely.
But you're not leaving me, Monica. There'll be vacations, and I'll be coming to see you, too. And even though you are away at school, you and I are going to be much closer together.
I love you, Uncle Steven.
Well, now, suppose you go and wash those tears away, And then we'll have dinner.
All right.
Lightly roll, o'er the tender waves we go. Lightly roll, drifting out to sea.
Don't go.
Lightly roll, o'er the tender waves we go. Lightly roll, drifting out to sea.
Thank you, children.